We're going to be talking about business agility with a story from Riot Games and tell you a little bit about the story, and then we'll go dive deep into sort of some of the business agility behind it. So I want to start by just this notion of agility. When people say the word agility, what comes to your mind? What picture comes to your head? And I want to show you a quick video. And hopefully this video will at least shed some light on a picture, a very common picture of what agility looks like.
Listen to her squeal and go through this. Those are weed pulls. Those are weed pulls. Get that cup down into that tunnel.
So that was a typical view of agility, really the sort of navigating constraints and whatever comes in front of me, I can figure out, and I'll be able to navigate whatever comes in front of me. You could see that dog like going through the obstacles, like nothing stopping them. Another perspective that I wanted to share is really related to this idea of the Copernican Revolution. Let me go ahead and explain this for a bit here. So the Copernican Revolution really was this mindset shift that the world had from thinking that the Earth was the center of the universe to really understanding that it's not the Earth is the center of the universe and the sun rotates around it. No, it's actually the sun is the center of our solar system and the Earth is rotating around it. And even though this concept for many of us may seem pretty simple, today it took 300 years for the world to recognize this and to truly acknowledge this huge, at the time, paradigm shift. And sort of similarly, we're going through a Copernican revolution in business, moving from an understanding that the firm, the company, is really the center of attraction, trying to bring customers in, right? Trying to bring them in through that marketing and sales, to an understanding that no, it's really about the customer. The customer is the center of the universe, and it's really about servicing companies orbiting around the customer in service of the customer. And that's really a big paradigm shift. But for a lot of companies, again, hopefully it won't take 300 years, but some of the implications of this shift is really not understood yet. And one of the biggest implications is really the culture, right? An organizational centric culture where, you know, again, if you read these questions with me, it's asking the question of what products and services can we sell to our clients, right? So it's still about us first, about us selling to our clients. What relationships do we need to establish with our clients? How can we make money from our clients? Versus the customer-centric culture is really more about what does my client need to get done, and what products and services can I offer to help them get their job done? What relationship does my client expect us to establish with them, and let me go establish with them? What value do our clients need to see before they are willing to pay? So you can see here, as a simple shift, it's really not just about, okay, you know, yeah, of course, we're servicing our customer. Every company in the world says we're servicing our customer and our customers first. But really, this culture of org centricity versus customer centricity is really what we're talking about here. And hopefully, it won't take, like I said, 300 years for companies to realize this, but it really is a big, important shift. And so when we talk about business agility, it's in service of the company. Again, like that video of the dog, it's like the company wants to win. So how do I, as a company, navigate all these constraints? Or the other perspective is it could be business agility in service of the customer. And if you acknowledge with me that the customer is in a constant state of motion with new technology, market changes, social changes, I mean, we're living through that literally right now with COVID. These are new behavioral and social norms. We have market changes. We have new technology, right? All of these things are shifting for our customers. So understanding that the customer is in a constant state of motion will really give you another lens for agility. And let me show you what that video looks like for a second here. For me, this is a parkour, right? But it's really, imagine this, like there is no constraints, but I'm running after my customer. My customer's in a constant state of motion, and I'm not just trying to navigate all these constraints for my own good. It's actually to serve the customer. Nothing can stop me, right? I'm just there to serve my customer. Now, I think it's important also to emphasize here that being in service of your customer does not mean simply responding to every request they have, right? That's more customer service. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you, right? Being customer-centric is really about delivering a bold new experience for your customers, something they never imagined was possible and they never dreamed of, right? And that's really the essence of what customer-centricity is. Let me give you an example from Ford here. Ford, 1905, their vision democratized the automobile. And if you read these vivid descriptors, we will build a motor car for the great multitudes. It will be so low in price that no man making a good salary will be unable to own one and enjoy with his family the blessing of hours of pleasure in God's great open spaces. When we are through, everyone will be able to afford one. The horse will have disappeared from our highways and the automobile will be taken for granted. Now, interestingly, right, again, this is about envisioning a new future. I love Henry Ford's quote, "If I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses," right? And I think that's really the essence of what we're talking about here. This is not about customer centricity as in, I'm just going to respond to customer needs. No, this is about a depth of understanding for the customer and the agility here to see what will surprise and delight the customers and create new experiences for them out of opportunities that didn't exist. And that's really the essence of the story that I want to share with you today. And our story will be basically how we were able to create a customer-centric moment for our players. But let me tell you a little bit about Riot Games first. So Riot Games, from day one, we really aspire to be the most player-focused game company in the world. This idea of customer centricity is built in our DNA from day one the company was established. This has been always our mission. And it really stems from this idea of we want to fight on behalf of an underserved customer, and those are players. And we use this equation day in and day out at our company, right? Player is more important than Riot, more important than team, more important than me. And so when I have a decision and I'm trying to weigh the trade-off between this is good for Riot or this is good for the player, guess what? It's super clear for me. We're going to do what's good for the player, right? If something is good for Riot as a whole or for my team, I'm going to do what's good for Riot as a whole, right? And this is so much so ingrained into even our purpose, where our purpose is we make it better to be a player, not just to serve. We want to create these new experiences that are even going to make it better to be a player. And one example of that is the whole world of esports. And if you've never heard of esports, let me give you a quick introduction to esports because it's actually a really essential sort of aspect to the story that I'm going to share with you.
Seen as the pinnacle of competition, it is the aspirational goal of every professional league player. To create a setting worthy of this prestige, championships are held in the world's most iconic arenas. Past events have sold out venues like the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Berlin, the Los Angeles Staples Center, and the Beijing National Stadium. This international event is broadcast in 19 different languages, across more than a dozen streaming platforms and television stations. Viewership has continued to grow through 2018, with the last tournament peaking at 99.6 million unique viewers.
We have done it. Everyone is seated. We have a full house.
Down. Bronx is away. IG are on the excess. The LPL has never won before, but that will change today. The crownless are finally king.
So, again, if you've never seen what esports is, I guess this could be a little bit overwhelming for you. But I hope you got at least a glimpse of really what the world of esports is. So, the backdrop to our opportunity here is it's the 2018 World Championships, and we have this opportunity to delight our players, right? Now, a couple of things to keep in mind here is, being the World Championships, we, this is an arena live performance, right? These are big things that are done at an arena scale. We're going to do this in Korea, so we're thinking about K-pop. We're also thinking about this experimental sort of technology that we used last year. So in 2017, we experimented with augmented reality, and we had a dragon fly into the Beijing Nest as part of the opening ceremony there. Let me actually show you what that looks like, because that's going to play a key role in our learning curve here. So you could see what that dragon is. It's augmented reality. So that was sort of all going into our head. At the same time, let me introduce you to one of our music producers, Toa. Toa had this idea in his head that he wanted to create a show like American Idol, using the champions from the game to compete and sort of really, compete for music or whatever. At the same time, Toa had a huge amount of experience with creating music videos and albums, and even managing artist relationships like Imagine Dragons. And so what came about from all this was this idea. The idea was, what if we create a fictitious band, right? This band is going to show up in augmented reality on stage for the opening ceremony, and we will simultaneously release a music video and a hit single, and this band is created from champions in our game, right? So it's not a real band, it's a fictitious band created from champions in our game. And we're going to give them a name called KDA. And so KDA became this fictitious band that we're going to debut as a K-pop group at our World Finals in South Korea in 2018. Keep in mind a couple of important things. We didn't have a budget for this. We did not have this on our roadmap. We did not have this planned. This was an opportunity, an idea. This is why I call this business agility for the sake of the customer. We found an opportunity. It's like, oh my God, we could create this new experience that not only, again, it's not responding to customer needs, but it's creating a new world, a new experience for players. It's an opportunity here. Can we pull it off? Do we as a company have the agility to pull this off? And the answer was yes. Let me show you what we pulled off.
I'm troubling you running it, I'm so cold. When I move that way, you gon' be so blown. I'm the realest in the game, Said I'm on fire with the blade. You're about to hear my name ringing in your head like whoa. So keep your eyes on me now. 무엇을 보던 좋아할 거야. I'm so tough. Let's get it, show you up. Can you feel the
the impact was huge. 100 million views on YouTube in the first 4 weeks. #1 on the World Digital Billboard. #1 on iTunes K-pop. #2 on all of pop in iTunes. If this was a real band, it would be considered the most successful debut of a K-pop group in YouTube history. It was a huge cultural moment, and it was amazing. Now, interestingly, this was not our metric of success. This was not why we were doing this. When we decided to do KDA, it wasn't because we wanted to hit these metrics. Our metrics were customer-centric. We wanted to delight our customers. And so the most important thing for us was, how did our customers respond? Did we create something new for them that they couldn't imagine? Did we create this new world for them? How did they react? Let me show you some of their reactions.
And I love that character right now. Am I becoming a furry?
Can you feel the rush now? Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down. They could try, but we gonna wear the crown. You could go another round, 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 round. Wish you luck, but
Hey, this shit is hot! Bro!
till we get it, we go hard. We so in it, we pop stars.
I'm gonna something cool's gonna happen. I'm gonna go.
You ready for this?
Let's go!
See, 언제든지 내 모습만
Get out.
She's
bald.
펴펴 네가 뭘 알아? 견딜 수 없어 원해도 원하는 게 얼굴에 보여. I'm troubling you running it. I'm so cold.
Now that's
Oh my god, this is like so much swag, right? Wow.
So you could see this is why we do all this. Now, let me tell you a little bit behind the scenes what happened. I wish I could tell you that it was simple as, you know what, it was a piece of cake, we did it. No. Or it was just a framework, we deployed safe, or, dad, or this or that. No. It was really years and years of hard work building capabilities within our organization so that we could pull something like this off. And the best metaphor I have really is sports. Sports is a great metaphor for business agility for me, because it's not something that you have overnight. It's something that you develop over years and years and years, and it requires deliberate effort. And there's no company, just like in sports, it's not it's not closed to certain people. It's open to anyone, regardless of age, gender, sport. Similarly, it's not like, oh, I'm a big company, I can't have business agility, or I'm a startup. No, it really is just a matter of discipline, effort, and this notion of a grind. In athletic terms, in sports, a grind is this push every day, where you're the first one out on the field, the last one to leave. You're putting the effort. It's hard, but you're delivering, you're performing, you're improving, you're pushing yourself, you're putting that 100% effort. And that's really what it takes to build this business agility in your organization. It's a grind. It's day in and day out of hard work. It's not something that just transforms your organization in a day or even 6 months or a year. Now, I want to sort of summarize what this feels like. The journey to business agility is a grind driven by an identity. And ladies and gentlemen, this identity is what we just talked about. It's that customer-centric identity, right? So when I ask, that identity, it's not about I'm doing business agility for, a better profit margin, or no, I'm doing this agility. I'm going to grind day in and day out because I am there to make it better for a customer. I am there fighting on behalf of a customer. Similar to how an athlete is very different than someone who is casually trying to work out to lose weight to go to the beach, right? That's very different. An athlete, it's day in and day out. It's part of their identity. They eat healthy because they're an athlete. They work out every day because they're an athlete, right? versus someone who just, okay, I'm just trying to lose some weight so I can look good, on the beach, or I have a wedding, or this or that. That's the difference here between an identity and just simply doing something for the sake of doing it. In addition to that identity, it requires persistent effort. It's not something that's going to be, one day you're done with it or I'm going to put a little effort. No, it's going to require a lot of effort. It's going to take a long period of time to build this, and it requires a growth mindset. And I'll talk about the growth mindset later. And it has no shortcuts. It really has no shortcuts. And similar to the world of athletics, where you need to understand your body composition. You need to understand the muscle groups that you have. If you're going to be an athlete and work on developing an athletic capability, you need to understand, okay, you know what? My legs are strong, but my upper body is weak. Okay, I'm going to focus more on my upper body, but I still have to work it all out because they're all connected. Similarly, there's what I like to look at as the muscles for business agility. It's the domains of business agility by the Business Agility Institute. And when you look at this model, I like to look at this as these are the muscle groups that we need to work on to build business agility in our organization. And when you look at these different muscle groups, right, you really have sort of the core muscles here. The way I look at these core muscles, these are the foundational muscles, just like the muscles in your core, your stomach, right? Your core muscles. Those are the muscles that actually enable business agility and customer centricity to exist. And we'll talk about those briefly. But you also have these other set of muscles, each of them, leadership, individuals, and operations, each of them increase or decrease business agility. So the muscles in the middle, those really make you customer-centric. And then the muscle groups on the outer side here, leadership, individuals, and operations, these are the muscle groups that really, really push the increase or decrease of business agility, however, you focus on it. Now, what I want to do really quickly here is go over the sort of the story of KDA, but from the perspective of what did we do over the years to build this business agility, right? So let's start back with our foundation, right? And the foundation, remember, is more focused on the customer centricity part. But really, at the heart of the customer centricity is your workforce, who you hire. KDA would not have been possible if we didn't hire people that were passionate about players. We hire people that are mission aligned, empowered, and they care. They just care, right? And so you can't have a customer-centric company without a workforce that cares about your customer, right? Next is the board. Whatever governance structure you have, right? We're owned by Tencent, a publicly traded company in China, right? So we have all the sort of big companies, sometimes overhead or whatnot. But really, our C-suite, our CEO, has worked days and nights to work with the board of directors to make sure that they're aligned on making customer-centric bets. This whole world of esports, right, is a customer-centric bet. For years and years and years, esports made no money. It actually cost us a ton of money, right? But the fact that we could make this long-term bet was only possible because we have this alignment with our board that we're going to take long-term bets in service of our customer, to delight our customer, to create a bold new world for the customer. And then number 3 is partnerships. When you think about partnerships, no company can own the entire sort of value stream without partners. And sort of, if you have partners as part of your value stream, you need to understand that they too need to be customer-centric to deliver a holistic customer-centric experience. So with us, in the story of KDA, our animation studio that was working with us was extremely player centric, right? And the fact that they were actually working with us in a co-creative, trusting relationship. It's like, what if we do this? But if your partners are simply about, let me execute, tell me what you need and I'm going to go do it. You cannot create something bold and new for your customer without partners that also believe and care about the same customer, maybe to a different degree, but they still need to be part of that ecosystem that you build. If you have partners and you rely on partners and they are not customer centric, your customer centricity will be harder to achieve because you have part of that value stream. And I understand that it's really hard because when we start with our customers, we usually start in a with our partners, sorry, we usually start in a transactional relationship, and that's okay. But after you find the right partner, convert that from a transactional contractual relationship to a co-creation where you want them to think with you, right? And you want them to engage with you on how to deliver the best possible experience for your customer. All right. So moving from there, let's go to leadership. And we're going to talk about leadership next. And with leadership, I want to just emphasize something really important. That people are the single most important asset for business agility because they are actually the most adaptable and innovative part of the entire system. It doesn't matter what systems you put in place, what frameworks, whatever. If your people are not adaptable, if your people don't get what you're trying to do, if you're not leading your people properly, if people don't feel a sense of ownership, you're not going to have agility. And on the other hand, even if your systems are not fully agile, but you have people that are passionate about the customer, people that are willing to take risks, people that are innovative and feel a sense of ownership, they are going to give your organization 10 times the amount of agility that any system or framework could do. So with that in mind, leadership becomes a really important sort of set of muscles. And one of the first aspects of leadership is people management. Because really, if you believe that people are your most important asset, then managing people is the most important role of leadership in an agile organization. And not just managing them as in sort of the typical sense of management. No, it's how to unleash the best out of them. Starting from who you hire, how you nurture them, the development, giving them empowerment, supporting them, getting the best out of them. Back to our story of KDA, Toa Dunn, who came up with this idea, well, again, it's actually not even his job. If you look at his job wasn't to do that, but he felt the sense of ownership. Like, it's when you have employees that are sort of unleashed and you've helped them develop that mindset, you as a leader, and you gave them the space they need, right, to come up with ideas and not be afraid to suggest new ideas and take risks. That's what really we're talking about here, right? KDA would not have been possible without someone like Toa. The next aspect of leadership that I believe is really, really important to agility is this idea of one team, right? And unfortunately, I've seen in a lot of organizations where leaders at the top do not really promote this idea of one team, but instead they are building their kingdoms and silos. They're not working with each other. And what that creates is the same feeling across the organization. Something like KDA would not have been possible unless at the top of our organization, once the idea was there, it was like, okay, we're all going to work on this together. This is something we all want to do. And it's not easy. I would say this is one of our weakest muscles at Riot, because over the years, what we've developed were different silos in the organizations because of the entrepreneurship that we wanted to promote. We wanted to promote, like, okay, you're a leader, run with this area. You have it. But over the years, what we found was that created silos. It's small companies inside of a company. And what we need to work on for something like KDA and beyond is really this notion of, no, even at the top, we are one team. And leaders need to promote this team mindset. And they need to be the first ones to model that desired behavior at the top, right? And that could be through a set of shared goals. And for us, it was really once TOA came to the idea, it was like, this is a company priority and we're all going to work on it together. It wasn't, TOA's fight to keep fighting. It was, no, at the top, we're going to come together and work on this. All right. The third is strategic agility. That's sort of the third muscle in this muscle group, right? Strategic agility is basically the job of a leader to set a strategy that provides guidance, clarity, but at the same time space, so that we can actually innovate and identify new opportunities, right, as we figure out new things for the customer. So we need to create clear and memorable strategy that contains that space that we talked about, so that over time, when we figure out changing requirements or changing needs or opportunities for our customer, we actually could apply that within the framework of our strategy. The idea of KDA was not part of our strategy, right? But we had articulated a strategy at a high enough level where it gave room for people on the front line like TOA to suggest ideas because they knew where we wanted to go, right? Our strategy of surprise and delight and building trust with our customers was really the guiding force here. And so leaders, instead of providing tactics, need to provide clear strategies that has agility baked in. And when I say it has agility baked in, again, it has room and space for emergent ideas and change. And that's how we balance at Riot this, top-down, bottom-up balance that we have and we see in companies, where we want teams that are empowered to come up with ideas, but we want those ideas aligned to a strategic initiative. And that strategic initiative is based on impacts and outcomes, not tactics, so that we can actually give room and space for those teams to innovate and create and figure out what could be best for the customer, not a year before it, but as that opportunity emerges. That's the agility part of it. All right, let's move forward. We got a lot to cover and not a lot of time here, unfortunately. So we talked about sort of the middle core muscles that enable customer centricity. We talked about leadership. I'm going to go quickly over operations just for a second here. So with the operations set of muscles, really the first here is enterprise agility. And that's all your sort of enterprise functions, HR, legal, finance, right? And they need to be designed in a way and with a mindset that they are there to enable the teams pursuing these emergent opportunities to delight the customer, not to stifle them. I've seen in a lot of companies where HR, legal, and finance are designed in a way to actually stifle innovation, to become gates for teams that are working, right? We don't want that. That's not going to enable business agility. So I'll give you an example here with KDA. For us to pull off KDA, we needed to sign over 23 contracts with different artists and production houses and whatnot. Our legal team could have easily said, wait a minute, this is too much risk. We're trying to do all this at the same time. This is not possible. No, they were like, this is a great idea for our players. We're going to help you figure out how to do this, right? At the same time, finance, right? Like I said, this is not something that was on our budget. Easily, finance could have said, you know what, guys, so sorry. Great idea, but we can't do it, this or that. They were like, okay, don't worry about it. You guys go figure out how to do this for the player. We're going to figure out how to get the money, where we can do it, how we'll get the approval. That's really where the enterprise, all of it, the whole system revolves around customer centricity and opportunities to delight the customer, not to feel like it's a tension or a war between the front line and the back office. All right, second, process agility. Process agility is the kind of Agile I think a lot of teams and organizations who know Agile are familiar with. This is, how do you continuously evolve, continuously improve in service of creating value streams to deliver value for your client or your customer. And this is our typical process agility. And so that's a really important muscle. And I would say this is the muscle that a lot of companies are already working on. The third of our muscles in operations is structural agility. And I would again say at Riot, this is one of our weaker muscles, unfortunately. But structural agility is this ability to organize and create coalitions around opportunities, right? Again, any size company will have a structure, and changing that structure is hard. The more you can either change the structure or create coalitions to tackle opportunities without disruption of the entire system, that's what's basically going to have you win. Because again, something like KDA, we're not going to restructure the company to execute on it, but okay, when the opportunity came about, okay, who's going to work on it? How do you create this coalition of people that can actually sit and deliver something like KDA? And again, like I said, this was one of our weaker muscles. We even called this the coalition of the unwilling, because it was so hard for us to execute this. This was like the muscle that was stretching the most for us. We didn't practice this muscle. It was like every, team, we had very, stable teams, and they've been with each other for years and all those kind of things. And so when a new opportunity the size of KDA comes about, it's like, wow, okay, how do we execute this? And it won't just work as a divide and conquer. You take this piece, you take this piece. It really had to create a coalition. All right, so those are the operational muscles that we talked about. Next, we're going to go into the individuals. And this is our last muscle group here. And before I dive into it, I want to tell you again a little bit more about the KDA story, because it's going to tie very neatly into these three muscle groups. So when you look at any game, right, it has music. And if you've played a game without music, it sucks. But anyway, game has music. Now, what happened is over the years, and please listen carefully to me here, because this was not a deliberate roadmap or game plan. It was opportunistic, based on ideas and innovation and experimentation from the front line, where someone said, hey guys, wouldn't it be cool to take the music and create a music video out of it? And we said, you know what? That's actually a great idea. Let's create a music video. And it was our first music video. And again, we learned a ton from that experience. And from that learning, someone else said, hey guys, you know what? We created a music video. Well, are we crazy enough? What if we create an album, a music album? And we said, okay, that's something that's going to surprise and delight our players. Let's create a music album. So guess what? We created a music album. From there, we started like, okay, wait a minute. We have these big performances that we have on stage. What if we start to build relations with, world-class artists? What does that look like? And so we started doing that. And all these things that came about over years, This journey that you're seeing in front of you here didn't happen in a couple of months. This journey happened over 6 or 7 years. But those 6 or 7 years are what built the capabilities and the craft and the guts to try something like KDA. And so when we look at the individual, it really starts with this notion of ownership and accountability, where someone like Toa, not just for KDA, but people like Toa across the entire years of Riot's existence came up with ideas like, hey, what if we do a music video? What if we do an album? They felt a sense of ownership to the company, right? It wasn't just about tell me my job and I'm going to go do it. It really was about what can I do for this company? What can I do for this audience? What can I do for my customer, right? And it's this sense of ownership and accountability that drove people like Toa to suggest KDA. At the same time, I would say this notion of craft excellence, right? So our craft in the space of music production and music videos enabled us to create something like KDA, which we normally wouldn't have been able to create. If we hadn't created music videos or music albums, or we haven't worked with music production in the past, even if an idea like KDA came to us as an opportunity, we wouldn't be able to execute it because we have no craft excellence. And so the idea of developing your craft excellence over time, not related to a specific opportunity, but related to who knows what opportunity will come in the future, right? That's really, really, really important. And I see companies where they only develop craft because it's a direct need right now. Like I said, if we hadn't experimented with the Dragon and augmented reality the year before, we wouldn't have done KDA this year, right? But it was like, okay, let's try it out. And in that trying it out, you build this craft excellence. And here's a quick journey of craft mastery, right? It's called Shuhari. And it starts with, let's say, again, let's take the world of cooking as an example here, right? So Shu is when you follow the rule. So you've never cooked, lasagna before. You're going to follow the rule. You're going to follow the recipe exactly. And there really is no craft excellence here. You're just following instructions. Ha is when you start to do this more often, you're a bit more comfortable, you break the rule, you know that there's variations of the techniques, you start to experiment with a couple of things. Ri is when you're a master chef. And basically, when you become a master chef, you're constantly actually experimenting with things, right? It's not that I'm just, varying the ingredients and trying. No, a master chef, to come up with a new creation, they're constantly experimenting, but they have such a depth of craft that they're like, okay, I'm going to put this, and something comes up. Sometimes it doesn't work. Right? The best restaurants in the world and the best chefs in the world are constantly experimenting. Now, the question is, when we think about this, right, in our organizations, people start in Shu, but they don't move to Ha and Ri. And you know why? One of the big reasons is this fear of failure. And this fear of failure is part the leader's role, part the sort of workforce's role. But I won't go into that. But this fear of failure, where is it coming from? And people will not want to experiment with things like the music video or the album or KDA or the Dragon and augmented reality if they have this fear of failure. How is failure looked at within the organization systemically? From a leader's perspective, and how is it looked at from an individual perspective? And that brings us to the last point, which is the growth mindset. The growth mindset is really an individual's mindset around how do they see learning and continuous experimentation and failure. Let me give you a little more here. This is based on Carol Dweck's work from the book Mindset. Basically, people have one of two mindsets, a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. A fixed mindset can be around certain things. So you believe that your, and you can see here between brackets, intelligence, personality, character is inherent and static, fixed or locked down. Your potential is determined at birth. It cannot change. Basically, what you're saying here is what you have is what you have and you can't change it. That's a fixed mindset. And so it leads to these behaviors like, I want to demonstrate what I have. I want to look good. I avoid failures. I avoid challenges. I stick to what I know. Feedback and criticism is actually taken really personal. So they avoid feedback and criticism. So if you avoid all of these things, you actually don't change or improve over time. It's a mindset. Now, the growth mindset believes that, you know what, intelligence, personality, character, whatever it is, right, can be developed. The true potential is unknown and unknowable. Why? Because the more I put effort into something, the more it can grow and flourish. And so that drives a totally different set of behaviors. And those behaviors are, I want to learn, I want to develop, I want to confront uncertainties, I want to try new things, I'm not afraid to fail, I want to put effort into learning something new, I want to embrace new challenges, I want to actually get feedback because feedback is going to help me grow. Right? Those are the behaviors of a growth mindset. And so systemically within the organization, right, we need to foster and cultivate more growth mindsets. But individually, we also need to think about, when do we exhibit a fixed mindset? When do we exhibit a growth mindset? Because everyone has fixed mindset about things and growth mindset about other things, right? Now, when we come and apply this to the world of work, that's really where the agile mindset comes in. When you're faced with a set of uncertainties and ambiguities, right? You're trying new things. Again, like our KDA, like our music album, like our augmented reality, when you're trying something new, right? The fixed mindset will try to reduce the risk of failure by forcing things to a known state or freezing things, therefore not really innovating, right? But the agile mindset, when faced with uncertainty and ambiguity, and add to that customer centricity, you have a desire to learn and discover efficiently and effectively through trying things out and adapting based on what you learn. That's really the essence of what we're talking about here, right? If you have this agile mindset, it really becomes about this culture of learning and experimentation. And that's really the essence of it. It's a culture of learning and experimentation. And if you boil down the whole story of KDA for you, it's we learned and experimented over time, and we're not afraid to learn and experiment today and tomorrow and every day for the service of our customer. And that's really the essence of it, right? We're going to learn and experiment, and we have a culture, we have the muscles to learn and experiment and deliver because we are customer-centric and we've built all these different muscles. And so to sort of summarize here, Agile is really this mindset described by values and principles which come from the Agile Manifesto. Even though it started in the world of software, it's much beyond that, and unlimited and manifested through an unlimited number of practices. And really, what's important here is the being of Agile, not just the doing of Agile. And so many times people focus on the doing of Agile, the iterations, the scrums, the safe, the frameworks, the release trains, the value streams, the backlogs. Yeah, those are all okay, good things. But what's more important is that being of Agile, right? The muscles that change who you are. Remember when we said the most important asset is the people, right? And what are we doing to make people more agile, right? It's that growth mindset. It's that being of Agile. It's the one team. It's all of these things that come together. So to wrap up here, really business agility is a set of organizational capabilities, behaviors, and ways of working that afford your business the freedom and flexibility to achieve its purpose. For us, our purpose is to be customer-centric, right? To be the most player-focused game company in the world. And so business agility for us has really afforded us the opportunity, the freedom and flexibility to take advantage of opportunities like KDA to deliver a new world for our players and to make it better to be a player. And the key to the definition is no matter what the future brings. It's a culture, right? We're going to continue to experiment and learn. It's not a one-time thing and we're done. And that's why, again, I'll end with this. It's a journey that is a grind. It's day in, day out, driven by this identity of being customer-centric, requires persistent effort over a long period of time and a growth mindset. And again, what's most important here is it has no shortcuts. There's no shortcut around this. It's going to be hard effort. It's going to take a long time. But you know what? It's so worth it. Because what you're doing, you're not doing for the company. It's not for profit. It's not for this. It's to delight a customer. You're fighting on behalf of a customer. And that's what makes it worth it. Makes it worth it, at least to us. So with that, I'll invite you to think about business agility, hopefully from a much broader perspective than just Agile, but also from a different perspective than not just for the company, but for the customer. Thank you so much.